In 1992, a passenger plane crashed into an apartment building in Amsterdam. It was one of the deadliest aviation disasters in Dutch history. Months later, researchers asked university students a simple question. Did you see the footage of the moment of impact? Most said yes. They described it in detail. The angle of descent. The speed of the plane. The explosion on contact. Some remembered the weather. Some remembered the color of the building. The descriptions were vivid, confident, and completely consistent with what you would expect from someone who had watched the footage multiple times. There was no footage. It never existed. Not a single frame. The crash had never been captured on camera. Every person who remembered watching it had constructed an entire visual memory of an event they had never seen. Complete with emotion. Complete with detail. Complete with absolute certainty that it was real. This is not a story about lying. Nobody in that study was lying. They genuinely remembered something that never happened. And that distinction is the most important thing you will learn about yourself today. Your memory is not a recording. It is a reconstruction. And every single time you remember something, you are quietly rewriting it. There is something you believed about your own past before you started watching this video. By the end, you will not be entirely sure it happened the way you think it did. Let's start with what memory actually is. Most people imagine memory like a filing cabinet. You experience something. Your brain photographs it. Files it away. And when you need it, you open the drawer and pull out the photo. Clean. Intact. Unchanged. That is not what happens. What actually happens is closer to a crime scene reconstruction. Your brain takes fragments, sensory details, emotions, context, things you knew before, things you learned after, and assembles them into a narrative that feels coherent. Every time you remember something, you are not retrieving a file. You are rebuilding a scene from incomplete evidence. And here is the part that should make you uncomfortable. Every time you rebuild it, you change it slightly. The act of remembering is also the act of editing. Neuroscientist Karim Nader at McGill University discovered something in 2000 that the scientific community initially refused to accept. Every time a memory is recalled, it becomes temporarily unstable. The brain has to physically reconsolidate it, rebuild the neural connections that hold it together. And during that window, the memory is wide open to modification. He called it reconsolidation. And what it means is staggering. The memory you have of your 10th birthday has been reconsolidated every single time you have thought about it. Every recall is a rewrite. The version you are carrying now has been through hundreds of editorial passes. Each one shaped by who you were when you remembered it, what mood you were in, what you needed the story to mean. The 10th birthday you remember is not the one that happened. It is the one your brain has been slowly building ever since. But it goes further than that. In 1974, psychologist Elizabeth Loftus ran an experiment that would spend the next 5 decades making people deeply uncomfortable. She showed participants footage of a car accident. Then she asked them questions about it. Some were asked how fast the cars were going when they hit each other. Others were asked how fast they were going when they smashed into each other. One word. Hit versus smashed. That is all she changed. The smashed group reported significantly higher speeds. They were also far more likely to later remember seeing broken glass at the scene. There was no broken glass. The word smashed had been planted into their memory of an event they had witnessed with their own eyes minutes earlier. A single word rewrote what they saw. Loftus spent her career documenting what she called the misinformation effect. The memories we hold of real events are continuously contaminated by information we receive after the fact. A news report. A conversation. A photograph. Someone else's version of what happened. All of it bleeds into your memory of the original event and becomes indistinguishable from it. You do not remember what happened. You remember the last time you remembered it, plus everything you have absorbed since. Now here is where it gets strange. False memories are not just possible. They are easy to implant. In a series of landmark studies, Loftus showed that entirely fabricated events, things that never happened at all, could be inserted into a person's memory with startling reliability. Participants were told by family members that as children they had been lost in a shopping mall. They had not been. Within a few sessions, 25% of them had developed full detailed memories of the event. They remembered being scared. They remembered the stranger who helped them. They remembered being reunited with their parents. None of it happened. All of it felt real. And the memories that were implanted were not fragile or uncertain. They were held with the same confidence as genuine ones. In some cases more confidence. Because false memories, once formed, carry no internal signal that distinguishes them from true ones. Your brain has no way to tell the difference between something that happened and something it was convinced happened. None. This makes a certain kind of sense when you understand what memory is actually for. Memory did not evolve to give you an accurate record of the past. It evolved to help you predict and navigate the future. A brain that remembers everything perfectly is a brain drowning in irrelevant detail. What you need is a system that extracts patterns, updates them with new information, and uses them to make better decisions going forward. Accuracy was never the point. Usefulness was. The problem is that we built an entire legal system, an entire sense of personal identity, and an entire understanding of our relationships on the assumption that memory is accurate. Eyewitness testimony is still used to convict people in courtrooms around the world despite decades of evidence that it is one of the least reliable forms of proof that exists. The Innocence Project, which uses DNA evidence to exonerate wrongfully convicted people, has found that eyewitness misidentification is the leading contributing factor in wrongful convictions. People go to prison because someone remembered something wrong and had no idea they were doing it. But the most personal version of this is not in a courtroom. Think about a conflict you have had with someone close to you. A fight. A betrayal. A moment that changed things. You remember it clearly. You remember exactly what they said. Exactly how it felt. Exactly what it meant. They remember it differently. Not because one of you is lying. Because you both encoded different fragments, reconsolidated through different emotional states, contaminated by different conversations afterward. You are both telling the truth about a memory. Neither of you is remembering the event. Go back to the opening of this video. The Amsterdam crash. Those students were not stupid. They were not suggestible in any unusual way. They were ordinary people with ordinary memories doing exactly what every human brain does. Filling the gaps. Building the story. Believing it completely. Your earliest memory almost certainly contains elements that were never there. The argument you had last year has already been edited in ways you cannot detect. The version of your life you carry in your head is a collaborative fiction between the person you were and every version of yourself that has remembered it since. This does not mean your past is meaningless. It means something stranger and more interesting than that. It means your memory is not a window into what happened. It is a portrait of who you were each time you looked back. And every time you remember, you are painting it again.